Hello, this is Dave Hurwitz at ClassicsToday.com, where I'm the executive editor, here to talk to you about the White Album. No, it's not that White Album, unfortunately. It's Theodor Currentzis doing, oh my God, Beethoven's Fifth. Just Beethoven's Fifth. Now, I have to confess, I'm a little bit angry. I'm angry because while I was listening to this recording, it's so bad that my cat threw up. I was thinking, okay, maybe it's me. Maybe, I just can't tune in to this level of masterfulosity or something. I don't know. But anything that makes an incredibly cultivated, artistic, sensitive animal like my cat puke her guts out has to be as bad as I think it is. So I am really pissed at Maestro Currentzis for doing this to me and to my cat. More to my cat. I can survive, but the poor creature, her nerves are now completely shot, And once a cat gets annoyed like that, they never forget. Never. All right, let's talk about this piece of garbage. Currentzis is a flavor of the month conductor. Why? Because he's this kind of like Svengali type who has a concept, That's why he got the job in Stuttgart, because Germans love a concept. So he has an orchestra where he can use his concept to make them sound different. And nobody cares whether it's good or bad. All they care about is that it should sound different, because that means it's somehow identifiable. And it's not enough because people somehow cynically are assumed not to be musical enough to react spontaneously with genuine warmth and love to a great performance of a great piece of music. It has to be shoved down their throats as a novelty. And so Currentzis is the novelty du jour. Now, lucky us, in this performance of the Fifth, he has written a little essay in the booklet notes, which I am going to read to you, every single word. So sit back and relax, because whether you like it or not, it's coming. And if it drives you crazy and makes you want to scream and rend your garment and jump off of a bridge, well, then you know what this performance sounds like. So let's hear what Mr. Currentzis has to say about Beethoven. You ready? Here we go. What most people know about Beethoven is the result of the performance practice of the 20th century. Duh. Entering our lives through the legacy of famous post-romantic recordings. Duh. Well, there's an intelligent opening. The musical consciousness of our times is a summary of statements from these interpretations that has been taken for granted as if it were something natural and authentic. Uh-oh. Cue the fact that he's finally woken up to historically informed performance. Uh-oh. And that's supposed to be natural and authentic, because everything we've been listening to is not natural and authentic. It must be unnatural and inauthentic. Right? Here we go. It appears to have evolved into a vicious circle with recycling of the same post-romantic flavor. Where has he been the past 30 years? 40 years. When did the period instrument stuff happen? Let's start with the 70s. 40 years they've been doing this and not recycling the same post-romantic flavor. Where has Maestro Currentzis been? Oh, wait, no. Remember, the world revolves around Maestro Currentzis, and he has only just apprehended these facts. Therefore, they did not exist before they impinged upon his notice. Isn't that a frightening thought? Doesn't that say something about where this guy has been as an observer of music and music history and the history of this work in performance? Meanwhile, the music of Beethoven exists inside ourselves in an ornamental iron, that's iron, I-R-O-N, existential costume built monumentally for the cosmogonic needs of the 20th century. I think my cat just had a hemorrhage. Forget throwing up. I'm going to read that to you again. The music of Beethoven exists inside ourselves in an ornamental iron existential costume built monumentally for the cosmogonic needs of the 20th century. I mean, is that just a pile of bullshit? It means absolutely nothing. But, okay. I'm getting ahead of myself. I have to stay calm. I'm staying calm. I truly believe that the first rule for a true immersion, true, remember, he knows true, into Beethoven's Fifth Symphony is trying to forget what you took for granted from the history of its interpretation and to re-examine non-negotiable solid habits of performing history. In that way, I believe you can start taking your first steps towards the desert space of your own intuition outside the luxurious sarcophagus of tradition. Okay. Yes, we must avoid the luxurious sarcophagus of tradition. Seriously, is that what you think when you hear Beethoven's Fifth? That you're trapped in the luxurious sarcophagus of tradition? That you're not in touch somehow with what Beethoven meant to express in his Fifth Symphony? Well, apparently, Mr. Currentzis thinks that's an issue. Indeed, this difficult process took me over 20 years until I started to see and hear this music as something new. Well, whose problem is that? Why is that something we need to know about? I mean, does this guy think that we have the same issue? That we don't hear the Fifth as something new? That we don't approach new performances with fresh ears? That we aren't looking for new insights and new ideas? That we don't hear the music with the requisite freshness when we listen to it? I mean, speak for yourself, you jerk. I mean, come on. All right. Calm. Yes. However, this something new is necessary as it gives you the shock of the first impact that Beethoven definitely wanted, but that has been wasted in these pseudo-existential factories of recording legacy. Oh, where to begin? It is tragically funny when the entire generation attaches to the Fifth Symphony some easy philosophical ideas, such as fate knocking on the door, and so on, a kind of new illustration of paradis artificiel. Everything sounds more pseudo-philosophical in French, doesn't it? That the music does not really need. Even Tchaikovsky and other late Romantic composers tried to deal in their opuses with fates and moonlights because they truly believed that it was something that Beethoven had established within his musical philosophy. Of course, this isn't the truth. Oh? Really? Moonlights? I don't think anybody thought Beethoven had that in his philosophy. Fate? Well, it sort of came from him, didn't it? Well, never mind. Never mind. Reality, historical fact is not what we're talking about here. The music of Beethoven is so immense. It is created with so much love, care, and dignity, the absolute golden ratio of the form, that it definitely does not need either us or any text to illustrate it. Nor does it need Mr. Currentzis to perform it or write a text to illustrate it, which is what he's doing, the bloody hypocrite. There we go. My only desire for this recording is to bring to the music dramaturgy. It should be musical. Okay, never mind. The music dramaturgy of the Fifth Symphony, the so-called catharsis. He writes it in Greek because French is only so pseudo-philosophical. If you can write it in Greek, then you're really, they invented philosophy, right? So you got to write a word in Greek. Okay, catharsis in all possible states, starting from the physical state of metronome and form, in the spiritual state of music not to be found in the notes. To the spiritual state of music not to be found in the notes. We're going to be catheterized, right? Yes, catheterization. I'll spell it in Greek. Catharsisization. I like my way better. All right. Beethoven, a true martyr of his time, who overcame great difficulties in his life of suffering, being completely misunderstood by his contemporaries. Was he? News to me. And also during the following centuries. I mean, nobody until now understood Beethoven. Nobody until, guess who? Theodor Currentzis understood Beethoven. Okay, that's already, okay. He's become a beacon of untouchable beauty in art. He wasn't that before. He was never a beacon of untouchable beauty in art. I mean, when Liszt unveiled the Beethoven monument in Bonn, whenever that was, 1830 or 50 or 30, 40 something, he was not a beacon of untouchable beauty in art? Nobody ever thought of that before Theodor Currentzis? Furtwängler didn't think that? Toscanini didn't think that? Oh, God. Of course, it is not the moral beauty of proportion, easy to capture. That's what he wrote. But an immoral and invigorating beauty of light that may burn. Okay, come on. Haven't we heard this crap before? Isn't this that same pseudo-romantic, pseudo-philosophical, garbage that the 19th century was pushing on its, as part of the whole romantic concept of the artist hero, the artist who is a priest of high art, at whose altar we should come and worship. I mean, haven't we heard all that crap before? Didn't Wagner try and sell us that hooey? Oh my God. All right. So Currentzis finishes up like this. All the high intention of this music, all this incredible energy may purify the listeners and send this new ray of light into their consciousness and spirit. In other words, it is that same late 19th century music as religion, come worship me at the palace of art. Let me tell you something, Mr. Currentzis. You're an entertainer. That's what you do. You entertain people. Nothing more, nothing less. Nobody needs you. Nobody needs this kind of foolishness. There may be some people who purify themselves. In other words, they feel like the enlightened few, the privileged, chosen, whatever they are, because they have come to allow themselves to be enlightened by worshiping at your shrine. But I'm not one of those people. And if you think that an entertainer, a mere entertainer, is going to tell me or you out there how you should be listening to Beethoven, then to hell with you. Now, if you found that essay a grotesque example of narcissistic pomposity at an excruciating level of, you know what I mean, right? Well, then you know what this performance sounds like. You're going to react to it that way. Oh my, I think the cat just died. Let me tell you about the performance, just for a few minutes, okay? And then we shall put this thing where it belongs, which is, with the other coasters. All right, here we go. First movement, completely mechanical, very, very fast, unbelievably well articulated, totally metronomic, without a single shred of well, no, there is a shred, but only later at the very end when the oboe cadenza happens. There's a shred, but without a shred of rhythmic flexibility, and lots of mannered, dynamic futzing around that Beethoven never wrote. For example, the second subject, he goes da 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 da, like that. Or then at the end of the development, when it's that the whole note, the whole theme is deconstructed into two-note fragments. Da 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 dum bum 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 bum. Before strings and winds. Well, he plays it. Da 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 bum. Isn't that just a revelation? Isn't that just truth? Like you've never heard it before? I mean, it's just absolute truth. Never mind, it's not what Beethoven wrote. It's truth. It has to be truth. Then we get to the second movement. Oh, God. Remember, historically informed performance. That means no vibrato. And it means no vibrato, particularly where every single treatise of historical performance says you have to have vibrato, which is on long notes at the ends of phrases. So instead of ya da da da, it's okay. And everything is clipped, like in the first movement. When the woodwinds have the tune in the minor key towards the end, dum ba da 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 da. I mean, it's ridiculous. Okay, the scherzo, not as terrible. There's less you can do with it, except when it comes back. We'll get back to that in a minute. But the trio, oh my God, fast as any human being has ever done it, articulated with unbelievable precision and accuracy, and totally devoid of expression. It's supposed to be humorous. It's supposed to have a feeling of jollity. I mean, all you can do is hang on for dear life and hope they get through it. You can't express anything at that pace, or with that kind of articulation, or with that kind of... It's totally unfeeling. And then when the scherzo comes back, it's every note has a different accent. It's phrased so strangely that there are moments where you won't even notice the tune. I mean, it's that weird, I mean, just to constantly be doing something. It's not playing the music. It's poking at it. It's the Chinese water torture applied to music. And then we get to the finale, which erupts very nicely. Of course, you might expect big dynamic range, but the tune, it's dum bum ba bum 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 ba, right? No. This is historically informed performance. Therefore, legato is evil. Evil. Nothing shall be held for its entire note value. It's rumph, 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 rumph. And this is the movement in which Beethoven expands the entire color palette of the orchestra, which means that we get a solo spotlight on, yes, the contrabassoon farting along the whole way. You hear this, farting along the whole way. It's just awful. Just awful. It's the idea here of rehearsing an ensemble so that he, Currentzis, the bearer of truth, can control every single note that has to be played a certain way. There is no freedom. There is no ensemble. There is no feeling of give and take. You can't express anything if you're going to do that. The players are completely captive. I mean, metronomically captive and rhythmically hostage to this clipped, uninteresting, uniform articulation, which only varies, really, according to dynamics. But the dynamics aren't the dynamics of the music. They're the dynamics that Currentzis imposes on it, not the dynamics that Beethoven wrote as often as not. And so, to the extent that those dynamics convey the expression that Beethoven intended, that isn't there either. All I can say about this, I think, to sum it all up, is that, we've had our share of kooky, romantic, narcissistic, podium, pompous, navel-gazing. There's talent here. He's putting it to so little use. It's all about himself. This is not Beethoven. This is not Beethoven we're hearing, folks. This is the autobiography of Theodor Currentzis. It's not a pleasant story. It's full of unhappiness and inhibition and suffering, but it's not Beethoven's. It's Currentzis's. And if you want to read a psychological case study, like one of Freud's, Madam X, sort of studies, that's what you're hearing. In a way, it's embarrassing, isn't it? Because yes, it's a personal statement, but it's a personal statement by a person desperately afraid. I mean, all I hear in this performance is fear. Fear of the music, fear of Beethoven. And he wants us to be as afraid of Beethoven as he is. I'm not buying it. I'm not afraid of Beethoven. Are you? I don't think so. I don't think so. I think the more we keep on listening, and we do keep on listening, the more we hear this for what it is, which is an embarrassment. Thank you, everyone. Keep on listening. If you enjoyed this chat, subscribe to my YouTube channel. There will be more to come because Currentzis has an orchestra in Stuttgart, and I have a feeling we're going to hear more and more and more, and people are going to marvel at the control that he exercises over his players, and what a sad thing that's going to be. Take care, everyone.